Welcome to Section 4. Before our live session, we think it's important to take a look at the role biology plays in conflict. Conflict, specifically how we respond when faced with it, begins in a location that may surprise you. The brain. Neuroscientist Paul D. MacLean's 1990 book, The Triune Brain, describes the brain in terms of three distinct structures that emerged along an evolutionary path. Although this model is a highly simplified explanation of brain activity and organization, it provides an easy-to-understand approximation of the hierarchy of brain function. Let's take a deeper look at these three systems, starting with the primitive or reptilian brain. Why start with the primitive or reptilian brain and its mascot, this cute little gecko? Because, well, without it, we wouldn't be here. This is the location of all basic automatic functions like breathing and heartbeat, things that are, with rare exceptions, outside our conscious control. This part of our brain has a single purpose, staying alive. Ever touch a hot stove? You didn't have to think to pull your hand back. Have you ever seen children hold their breath during temper tantrums? Don't worry, they're never in danger. The primitive brain will either cause them to take a breath or pass out and resume regular breathing. It has a hair-trigger survival response, fight or flight. You've probably heard stories about a petite person lifting a car to save children. Such things can and do happen when the primitive brain is triggered. Next up, the limbic system, sometimes referred to as the mammalian brain. The limbic system is where emotions and relationships emerge, reside, and operate, where we can see the relation of cause and effect. For fans of Star Trek or The Big Bang Theory, think about Dr. McCoy or Leonard, the feeling characters in the story. It's the home of our intuition and instinctive guidance. Remember your conflict self-inventory? Your initial conflict style probably lives here. It's the source of those often important gut feelings. It's the source of innovation, creativity, and the ability to use what you know and have in different ways. You've probably heard the saying, elephants never forget. Their brains have a well-developed limbic system, too. Long-term memories form here. It's the home of our feelings. The limbic system allows us to form relationships. It's the part of the brain we use to make moral decisions and value judgments. Sensory input figures in, too. Smells can evoke emotions and trigger memories. We share this brain with other mammals, not just elephants. Continuing up the chain, we arrive at the neocortex. Not every mammal enjoys this cerebral advantage. If Dr. McCoy and Leonard represent the limbic system, Mr. Spock and Sheldon represent the neocortex and its rationality. The neocortex allows us to manipulate sounds, symbols, and numbers. It's the home of rationality, analysis, and data-driven thought and action. It allows us to move beyond the concrete sensory world into abstraction. And along with abstract thought comes imagination, creating ideas beyond what we can experience. We share this brain with other primates. Think about Coco the gorilla, who could use sign language to communicate and tell stories. We also share it with dolphins. As anyone who ever watched Flipper understands, their neocortex is also highly developed. So all these characters, the three parts of our brain, work together to make us higher beings. And when things are all reasonably right with our world, they play nicely together. We think clearly, our emotions are balanced, and our bodily functions, pulse, heart rate, and digestion, for example, are normal. When we feel stressed or threatened, however, our brain kicks into overdrive. It releases adrenaline and other hormones and neurotransmitters that flood the brain and trigger physical responses. Bye-bye, cute little gecko. The reptilian brain transforms him into a raging T-Rex. It takes charge of the other parts of the brain because what good are intuition, memories, and calculus if you're dead? This evolutionary artifact, however, doesn't always serve us well. This stress response is meant to protect and support us. To maintain stability or homeostasis, the body is constantly adjusting to its surroundings. When a physical or mental event threatens this equilibrium, we react to it. This process is often referred to as the fight or flight response. We prepare for physical action as if our life depended on it. We either confront the threat or make a quick getaway. It doesn't matter if the threat is real or imagined. When we are threatened and feeling unsafe, the problem looks and feels like this at a cellular level, because part of our brain is reacting to a perceived real threat. Remember the 5 conflict resolution strategies from part 2 of this lesson? Actually, the fight or flight response is a good argument in favor of avoidance because it buys you time to cool down and reflect. Once your heart rate slows and you've reclaimed your reason, you often discover that there's not much of a threat at all. Reflection reminds us that our goal is to get an issue resolved in a respectful, collaborative manner, not to win an argument or debate at all cost. Remember, you can win the battle, but still lose the war. Once the T-Rex is out of the cage, it's almost impossible to get it back in. Common sense tells us that it's easier to put out a smoldering fire than one which is already started. But even one which is already started is easier to quench than a raging inferno. You don't want a conflict to reach this point. It's disruptive, counterproductive, and can lead to grievances and other unpleasantness. When we gather for our live session, we'll share verbal strategies and listening skills that, when combined with knowledge of ourselves and our preferred styles, and a variety of conflict resolution strategies, can keep conflict from exploding into a roaring, destructive blaze. We hope this quick review has strengthened your understanding of the role biology plays in our responses to conflict. Now, it's on to Section 5.